Hey, it's Squidly. Today I want to show you the North Face Stormbreak 1 one-person tent. So this is the North Face Stormbreak 1 one-person tent, and it is kind of a classic two-pole one-person tent configuration. You can see the outline there of the poles as they form an X over the top of it. It stakes out in 4 places, and it can be staked out also at the corners here, but it stakes out between the corners on all 4 sides. And so this is just a preliminary view of the Stormbreak 1. And now I'm going to go into some of the features of it. And what you'll find is there are some things that I like about it and some things that I'm not real fond of, but there may be a reason they're that way, and it does still have, I think, some really practical uses. Okay, so let's start out with some of the features of it that I really do like. First of all, being a double wall tent, that is a thing that I really like about tents. Single wall tents have their place, they have their functions. There are things about those I like as well. But a double wall tent on a night like we had last night, where it rained almost all night, is a welcome feature. The Stormbreak not only dealt with the rain and kept me dry, but it also kept condensation to a minimum. And it made it so that even though there was condensation on the Rainfly, the condensation every time I touched the interior walls was not getting on my sleeping bag. Another feature that I like is the wide D-shaped door. You can see that it zips to give you a wide opening for getting in and out. And because it's a D-shaped door, when you let go of it, it barely comes in contact with the ground. This is not something that is going to, where you unzip it and your entire door is now laying on the ground. You can see just how much mesh there is, and it makes for excellent ventilation. So you, in the middle of the night, especially if you're able to leave one of the doors open, you're going to get great ventilation and reduce the amount of condensation that's going to accumulate inside the tent. And so I really like the fact that while you're in there, air is going to be able to move and not feel so stuffy in there. Now, this is a cool weather trip that we've been on, but I have to imagine that with that much ventilation in really warm temperatures, it's going to keep it from feeling so stuffy. Okay, so if you watch my channel, you know that I'm pretty much a big fan of one-person tents. I've been exclusively using one-person tents now for more than 2 years, and they're kind of my jam. This is kind of what I do. Now, this particular one-person tent sort of pushes the limit of what I find to be acceptable or good for a one-person tent, even for someone who is a fan of them. Now, if you'll come in, I'll show you kind of what the limitations are here. This tent is tapered at the foot end, and so it gets to be pretty narrow. But even up here at the head end, it is a tight space. There is just not a lot of extra room either for gear or for moving around or for activities. One of the other limitations, and again, this might be a thing that's just personally for me, and somebody who is into one-person tents might find that this is not really a problem at all, and maybe it's just something that I don't particularly like, but the headroom is really limited. You can see I'm sitting up, and I'm only 5'10". I'm not a super tall guy, but I really cannot sit all the way up without pushing against the top of the tent. Now, for me, the upside to this tent outweighs the downsides, but I feel like I do need to be forthcoming about where the limitations are. It has one vestibule, and with only half of it available to me the way it's set up right now. And on a good night, I generally sleep with one door rolled up, and so it only gives me half the vestibule. But with half the vestibule like this, there's enough room to fit my pack in there. With it unpacked, I don't think that it would fit in there with everything in the pack. This is important because there's really not room in the tent to bring in all of that gear. Obviously, I have the tent set up right now, but when I get it packed up in its stuff sack with the poles, the stakes, the tent body, and the rain fly, it all fits in the stuff sack so that it fits down horizontally in my pack. So it fits, it packs down pretty small where it fits in there really easily.
Hey, Squirrely, how much does it weigh?
Well, since you asked, it weighs 3.1 pounds, and that is the trail weight. Of course, as you can carry more stuff, more guy lines and more stakes, you can get it to weigh more if you want to, but I have it pared down to just the minimum, and it's 3.1 pounds. So as I mentioned, last night I was in what was nearly an all-night rain, and I had no water coming in on me. So to answer the question about the weather worthiness of this tent, it is absolutely weather worthy. All-night rain, no water came in, so totally satisfied with how that went. The size and kind of the proportions of it are, as every one-person tent is kind of limited, so that's something just to be aware of. But this one in particular is really tight for a one-person tent. So all of that to consider, whether you are interested in or considering the North Face Stormbreak 1 tent. So thanks for sticking around to the end, and I'll see you on the next one.